Are you tired of the government trying to calcify your pineal gland and turn you into nothing more than a working zombie? Look no further, because the Houston Ensemble has now been sponsored by the amazing Epic water filters. Tell us what they do, Armin.
Epic water filter is the only true filtration system you need. All these other filtration systems skip out on so many terrible chemicals and minerals that are still in your water and that you should not be drinking.
Fluoride, chromium, lead, all these other things that you do not want in your water. We've got water bottles with filters on them. We've got home installation filters. We've even got pitchers. Right now you can get 20% off any of these items on epicwaterfilters.com if you use our discount code Houston Ensemble, all lowercase, one word.
That's Houston Ensemble, lowercase, one word, for 20% off your Epic water filter.
Houston.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Houston Ensemble podcast. We're on episode 27 today. We've got a very special guest with us, Ash Heather, the CEO and founder of Epic Water Filters. Epic Water Filters is one of our new partners here, and it's an amazing water filtration company that I actually found personally a few years ago and started using, and I wanted to, do something that I thought was important as well for the podcast. And I wanted to speak with Ash today to kind of hear, about his life, hear how he started the company and all that great stuff. So Ash, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a treat.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on, guys. Just for full transparency, this is the first kind of thing like this I've done. So
perfect.
Hopefully I do okay.
Oh, you're going to be fine. Let's just get a little background about you. Can you maybe tell us, you obviously have an accent, and I wasn't sure what to expect. So maybe tell us where you're from and tell us what's going on.
Yes, I'm from Australia originally, but I haven't lived in Australia for 23 years. So it's been a while. That sort of journey has taken me to, let's see, when I left Australia in 97, I moved to Japan, had a couple of years in Japan.
Wow.
Then I had 6 years in New Zealand. Then I had 10 years in Singapore. Back in those days, I was in banking. So I was, working for a sort of a large investment bank, trading interest rates, trading foreign exchange. So that was kind of the reason I was sort of traveling around the world. I was kind of, different jobs, different locations. And then left finance in late 2011. At that time, I was living in Singapore. I have an American wife and 3 kids, and so I went and worked for her business in Singapore. She's a naturopathic doctor, and she opened kind of a wellness center in Singapore, and it was quite a big undertaking. It's in one building, but it's 4 levels, and it's on the ground floor. There's kind of a healthy cafe, a raw food cafe, and there's a retail sort of space in the mezzanine overlooking the cafe, which sells vitamins, supplements, lifestyle products, that kind of thing. And then upstairs is a yoga studio, raw food cooking studio, and then on the top floor there's practitioner rooms. So I left finance to kind of go and manage that for her so she could just be the practitioner. So it was a pretty big career change and sort of shock to me, from being in banking for 18 years, and then all of a sudden I'm working in the natural health industry and trying to run a restaurant. All things I didn't really have much idea about how to do, but, we all survived and learnt a lot. And I guess that was, that was the start of my interest in sort of obviously natural health, but also just being able to get access to healthy water. Even in Western countries like Singapore, the water quality is not perfect. There's always contaminants in the tap water. So my wife was always pushing the idea of, we've got to make sure we drink contaminant-free water. So that sort of was the itch for us to sort of investigate more about water filtration. And that was kind of where Epic germinated. It didn't fully sort of start until we moved to the States. We moved to the States in 2014, and my wife and I started Epic in 2015. It was pretty idealistic, to be honest, and naive, not having any experience with water filtration or any experience in retail or e-commerce. So, like a lot of other sort of early stage businesses, it started in my garage and then moved to the basement. And eventually we started growing, and I ended up getting a business partner, Joel, in mid 2017. And the business has grown from there. We're still a pretty small team. But we're having a lot of fun, and we're just trying to make a difference. After all my years in banking, I just wanted to do something a little bit more meaningful. Obviously for me personally and my family, but also just for the world. And it is idealistic to think you can sort of make a big difference, but if we all have that attitude, then no one's going to make a difference. So it's been fun. As sales have increased, we're obviously realizing now that the bottles and pitchers that we sell, they're starting to get spread around the world, and people are buying less plastic water bottles. So that's kind of the primary driver behind, starting Epic, was just trying to give access to clean, healthy water for people, and just sort of give people an alternative to buying plastic water bottles, because, that's a massive problem throughout the world. So
yeah,
that's what kind of gets me out of bed every morning these days, is just, trying to make an impact. And it's, it's fun. Like I said, I think we're slowly making a difference. And, when you can sort of do a business where you're making a difference and you still have a lot of fun along the way, then, it makes me happy. So
totally.
That's kind of Epic in a nutshell. We're based in Boulder in Colorado, as you guys know, and we're a small team. There's myself and Joel, and we have four full-time employees besides that. So small team. We basically sell online, Amazon and our own websites. We're not really trying to break into bricks and mortar retail. We're just trying to keep it small, and by, just selling as an e-commerce company, it just allows us to scale globally without having to have a big team behind it. Because, the last thing I want to do is getting back into managing a whole team of people. Like, I had to learn banking at different stages. So yeah, we just have a pretty good tech sort of infrastructure, which allows us to run the business on a global level, but, just keep the team small and just focus on, coming up with good products and selling good products, rather than, focusing on just having to manage people. So that's our intention, just keep it sort of lean and mean, and just, use the scalability of e-commerce to just keep it rolling.
And maybe you noticed or not, but I've got my Epic bottle right here with my urban filter on it. And for anybody who's listening, as you may know, we have partnered with Epic Water Filters, and you can go on their website, epicwaterfilters.com, and use our discount code to get 20% off any order with the code Houston Ensemble, all lowercase, one word. But yeah, we've been trying to push that recently, and I think a lot of people that listen to our podcast would really be into this, and some of them are already for sure, because like what you were saying, it's really important. Obviously, the quality of water throughout the world, but even in the United States, is like worryingly low.
Yeah.
And I first found you guys because I was looking for a filtration system that would filter out fluoride, and I stumbled across your filters and realized how much other stuff they filter out, and I was like, well, I'm certainly just going to get this. And so that's why I started on it. But speaking of that, I read a book by Dr. Paul Conant entitled The Case Against Fluoride. Do you have specific thoughts or a specific knowledge about fluoride in water?
Well, it's a controversial subject, Chad.
It is.
There's two schools of thought. There's the mainstream, which is, I guess, pushed a little bit by the dentists, is that, everyone needs lots of fluoride to keep their teeth healthy and that kind of thing. But to be honest, you can actually get enough fluoride through various other food sources, like certain vegetables, etc., where you get enough fluoride. And, I especially take my lead on some of these issues from my wife, because, she's done a lot of study of, natural health, etc. So she's quite anti-fluoride. So that was another sort of driver of Epic starting, was we wanted to be able to take fluoride out of the water. in Europe, especially, there's hardly any countries now that put fluoride in the water over there.
Right. Yeah.
And, in the US, it's it's more on a state by state basis, but I think there's more awareness happening about it now. So, that's a big thing for us. And fluoride is hard to get out of the water. Some of our filters get it out, some of the others don't. It's just hard to get out. And, we're always trying to improve our filters. And, fluoride is a big issue for our customers. That's why, a lot of our customers have come to us, a bit like you, because they were looking to remove fluoride from the water. But like I said, it's one of the harder contaminants to get out. And, to get your filter to continue its performance through the life of the filter, so it's removing that fluoride throughout the life of the filters, pretty tricky as well. So we're always trying to improve, and as technology changes as well, there's definite some improvements even lately about different resins that can help you remove fluoride. So we're working on a new pitcher filter right now and a new bottle filter, which will have improved fluoride removal. So we're pretty excited about that.
Can you talk about the science of removing these contaminants and who's on the front end of creating the patent / designing the filters?
Yeah, I mean, I won't go into specific detail, but
right, of course.
Like I said, there's various resins these days that are being developed by filtration companies, which are good with removing, a lot of different contaminants. In the past, there was a few ways to remove fluoride. Obviously, reverse osmosis basically removes every contaminant from water. But that's generally a 3 or 4 stage system that you put under your sink, and you generally need to get it installed by a plumber. They're expensive, and reverse osmosis also wastes a lot of water as it's creating a gallon of pure water. So I've never been a big fan of reverse osmosis, just because of the water wastage aspect to it and the ongoing cost of replacing the filters. So other ways to remove fluoride is activated alumina, which is used in some pitcher filters to remove it. We found resins to be more effective, and like I said, there's a lot of new developments in the resins using ion exchange normally. So we usually talk with our filtration engineers. We have a couple of different companies that make filters for us, and a lot of the time when we're talking to these guys, their main business is creating pretty basic filters for companies that are a lot bigger than us. But essentially just trying to get rid of CTO, which is chlorine, taste, and odor, essentially like a Brita. So they're always surprised when we come to them and say, listen, we really want to remove all the contaminants, and fluoride's a big focus for us. And they're really surprised because, when you're in that kind of mainstream filtration market, fluoride just doesn't seem to come up. So we're always saying, no, we want to take out more. We don't mind if the filtration takes longer. Especially if like a gravity-fed pitcher filter, you're not going to remove many contaminants if it's just going straight through. So, our pitcher filters generally take 8 to 10 minutes to filter one reservoir, and it's slow for a reason. The water just needs more contact time with the filtration media if you're going to get a lot more of the contaminants out. So we're kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum to some of the cheaper filters. We want to pay more for our filters with our filter manufacturer because we want them to have a much better performance. So I guess we're kind of a niche player in the filtration market. We're not mainstream, but I think as time goes on and there's a lot more transparency out there about water quality, I think we might move away from being niche to being slightly more mainstream. So obviously we're always trying to make our filters cheaper so we can sort of be available to more and more people. So we're always working on using new technologies and hopefully getting our unit prices lower, just so we can just help people get access to clean, healthy water. It's pretty sad when you see people going into Walmart and buying like 48 bottles of plastic water. One, obviously it's a lot of plastic pollution, but two, often the quality of that water in the plastic bottle is not very good. And then there's the other aspect of, if those plastic water bottles at some point in transit have been, sitting out in the sun for quite a while, then the plastic leaches into the water as well. So, people buying plastic bottles of water, there's a load of negatives about it. Obviously the pollution, but also just the cost,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Could you tell people what kind of stuff is in the water that they don't realize that they're drinking?
Yeah, and we'll focus on the States, and obviously,
In the United
water
States.
quality varies from municipality to municipality, sometimes county to county. And often it depends, what industry is in the area, what industry has been in the area in the past. Obviously there's a lot of issues in Michigan with lead, not only in Flint, but in a bunch of other places. There's another industrial pollutant called PFOAs and PFOSs. And that's a byproduct of mainly companies making non-stick materials like non-stick fry pan, Teflon kind of fry pans, non-stick grease paper, that kind of thing. A byproduct of that is PFOAs, PFOSs. And, so they're becoming really widespread in the Western world, because the problem with those is they can actually get evaporated from, say, lakes or streams up into in the air, and then it comes back down, through rainfall. So it goes to other areas where those contaminants weren't originally at. So a lot of people call it the everywhere contaminant these days because it's just so widespread.
Mm-hmm.
And the rules over the last 50 years about, large factories sort of dumping pollution into waterways, there wasn't really much enforcement going on of what was being dumped. So, some municipalities have found themselves with pretty tainted water and some, long-term health issues for the citizens. And it's a tricky subject. Obviously, the Aaron Brockovich story was kind of, that started to shed some light on it. And there's been a few other similar things along the way. But there's more and more stories coming out about, towns having really contaminated water. And, there's no one's being held accountable. So to me, the best way to do it is just if you can get some kind of filtration, because some of these contaminants, if you're being exposed to them in the long term, they can be really dangerous, like deadly, cancer causing, things like that. And especially for kids, they can really sort of hinder the development of kids in terms of, bodily organs and that kind of thing. So, I don't want to be too sort of scaremongering, but it's just, if you're going to be drinking the town water, you'd hope it was going to be nice and pure and not be sort of damaging to the body. But, in a lot of places, it's just not true. So that's where filtration sort of comes into play. In the ideal world, we wouldn't need water filtration, at least to use tap water. Obviously, you need it if you want to sort of drink out of a lake or a stream, just to protect against biological contaminants like giardia or cryptosporidium. So, it's obviously a problem, all over the world. So, I just think filtration's going to continue to grow as, water testing becomes a lot cheaper for people to do personally, and municipalities are having to publish, regular results of their water quality. And, contaminants, like, some of our filters take up to 200 contaminants. So, you're talking agricultural pollutants, industrial pollutants, trace pharmaceuticals, heavy metals. There's so many. Even just looking at big, large urban areas, the amount of trace pharmaceuticals coming back into the water system by, people taking a lot of pharmaceuticals. And, even in large cities like New York, London, they even find traces of cocaine in the water. So,
Right.
It's just amazing what can make its way into our water. A little scary, but, if you've got a filter in your drink, then everything's going to be good.
When you go down the water kind of rabbit hole, one of the first things that you will find out that's shocking is that, Europe, an entire modern developed continent, does not mess with fluoride.
Yeah.
And plus a lot of other chemicals that are in the water in the United States. And then you think, surely the EU is not just banning these chemicals for no reason. And then the question is, why aren't we doing that in the United States? And I think that is where a lot of the maybe more sinister and perhaps wacky thoughts and hypotheses about why these contaminants are in the water, that's when they arise. But whether or not it is intentional or unintentional that there are these chemicals, I don't think that's significant. What's significant is that they are being consumed by the people. And so, for example, in Denton, which is a county in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, I used to live there because I went to University of North Texas for my master's. The water was so bad that the entire town said, you know what, guys, you probably just don't drink the water, please. Just don't drink the tap water, please. It's getting really bad. And that's a tiny college town. And unfortunately, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of kids, really, that are trying to go to college, trying to be healthy at an important part of their lives. And they can't do that because their entire water system is like so polluted. So, yeah, I mean, I think you really can't stress enough how important this is. And I kind of almost want to show you our commercial.
I'm worried that we'll have the screen sharing security issue.
Oh yeah.
Let me just see real quick if
it's a little bit facetious, the commercial, but it's entertaining, and I think you'll like it.
Like,
okay. Let's see if we can get it going.
Yeah, actually, I believe we can. Yeah, we'll see what you think about it. I hope you love it. Let me go with desktop one. All right. Can you still see it, Ash?
Yep.
All right. Here we go.
Are you tired of the government trying to calcify your pineal gland and turn you into terrible chemical?
Oh, you know what? Hold on. I want to get you the proper.
Could you hear that?
Yeah, I could hear that.
Sweet.
Here we go.
Are you tired of the government trying to calcify your pineal gland and turn you into nothing more than a working zombie? Look no further, because the Houston Ensemble has now been sponsored by the amazing Epic Water Filters. Tell us what they do, Armin.
Epic Water Filter is the only true filtration system you need. All these other filtration systems skip out on so many terrible chemicals and minerals that are still in your water and that you should not be drinking.
Fluoride, chromium, lead, all these other things that you do not want in your water. We've got water bottles with filters on them. We've got home installation filters. We've even got pitchers. Right now you can get 20% off any of these items on epicwaterfilters.com if you use our discount code Houston Ensemble, all lowercase, one word.
That's Houston Ensemble, lowercase, one word, for 20% off your Epic Water Filter.
That's cool.
I mean, obviously we snuck that in there also because we were going to sneak it in there anyway. So might as well do it and show you. And, but yeah, I thank you. I think once again we took that little spin on it, the funny little spin on it in the beginning, but as facetious as that may seem, we are serious about it,
Yeah.
So, but what cuz you said you did Forex.
Yeah.
And I if we can briefly maybe go into that world or not, but I had a simple question. Do you still trade?
No, I don't. And I love risk taking. I wouldn't. You don't like to call it gambling, but gambling's in my blood. I grew up playing a lot of cards and things like that. So when I got a job in finance and it was a trading job, it was kind of like heaven for me. In terms of, it was just perfectly suited for my sort of interests. So, when you're a trader, in for a bank or hedge fund or whoever it may be. You would never say you're a gambler. You're, a educated risk taker. And especially, when you're at the coalface in terms of finance, you've got a lot of information at your fingertips. Back in those days, I was sitting in front of like 8 screens, Bloomberg, blah blah blah, and you're constantly in touch with your network about what's going on in the world and the markets you're focusing on. And to be honest, it was hard enough making money for the bank with all that information at my fingertips. So to think when I left that I would still be able to make some money out of it, I thought it was a little naive, and I just didn't want to do it. So, and especially, the idea of quitting was to, obviously it was going to be improve my health, because it was a pretty stressful sort of lifestyle at different points. But I didn't want to be looking at the markets all the time. I just spent 18 years doing that. I wanted to actually, just go and do something different and spend a lot more time with my kids, that kind of thing. So to answer your question, I don't really trade much at all anymore. I still sort of watch the markets. But yeah, I generally stay away. But I still stay in touch with my banking buddies. I like to keep my finger on the pulse. So I'm definitely no kind of day trading. Every now and again, I'll make some sort of more long-term kind of investments and just keep an eye on them. But so I'm not like the latest craze of sort of getting on Robinhood and sort of hunting day in day out. I just think that's not for me. I'm getting too old for that stuff.
When Robinhood and like a couple of like Acorn, or what are they, like a couple other ones came out, first of all, the trading platform itself within these within these programs like is so weak. It's pretty much a waste of time. You're not going to be really trading. You're going to be pressing like 2 buttons and like getting obsessed with that and thinking you're trading. And these are very, very weak tools that it almost feels like it was designed intentionally to be so simple and so weak so that no one is really trading. They're just putting their money into this app. And then these brokers, which is what these companies are, they're brokerages. That's what they are. And it's nice and convenient, their apps, but I kind of saw it more like I'm hesitant to say this, but a little schemy. It's a little more of a fad than anything that's really uplifting the people all that much, because the average person can use that app and still have no idea what they're doing.
Totally. Well, it seems like a lot of the new people getting involved are sort of more just listening to what they're reading on websites and chat rooms and things like that.
Right.
To me, equity markets should always be an investment. You should be making investment decisions. And to be honest, I think most of the time, unless it's almost like a full-time job or a really serious hobby, you should leave it to the experts in terms of, just invest money in, more of a broad-based fund, whether it's like an index fund or whatever.
Right.
Because, especially people that get involved and then the first few trades, they make money, then they think, oh, this is easy.
Right.
And markets have a way of teaching you a lesson. They're very humbling. So I would just say it's kind of like a case of buyer beware. It's not as easy as people think. Obviously, the last 6 months or so, markets have all appreciated a lot because they've been pumped up with liquidity. But, I think there's a period coming where the volatility is going to get really big. And it's not going to be a one-way street up. It'll be like a roller coaster ride. So,
So are you then? Would you say that you're of the opinion that we may be looking at a troublesome period, maybe, for our global economy?
I think so. I'm not quite sure when it's going to be, because the governments and central banks keep
pumping it,
pump the tires up. It's like a sugar hit. It's almost like a constant sugar hit. So trying to predict when the turbulence will come is tricky. But I definitely, with all the COVID lockdowns and economies being damaged, these sugar hits, it's not like they're helping a lot of the mainstream sort of people. I tell you, they're helping a lot of companies and they're helping a lot of wealthy people.
Right.
It's almost like the liquidity they're trying to inject it's more like it's helping Wall Street rather than Main Street.
Precisely.
Oh,
And
good
it's
quote.
tricky, I know it's not easy trying to be that person that's pulling the trigger and get the money in the hands of the right people.
Right.
Mhm.
The economy is it's so massive and there's so many moving parts of it.
Mhm.
But I think there's trouble coming. I think obviously a lot of people have lost their jobs, so I think Main Street's going to be going through a lot more pain over the next few years.
Mhm.
And the central banks and the governments can't just keep printing money and providing these sugar hits. At some point, that's got to stop because eventually, if they just keep trying to do that, people lose faith in the financial system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you've got to take some pain at some point too. We live in a world these days where everyone wants no pain, no hard work. So it's
I get it.
sometimes you just got to go through some hardship. Economies, they're generally cyclical. You go well for a while and then you go down. You might have a recession. Not saying we have depression, but recessions they're a pretty regular thing. It's almost like governments and central banks are trying to get rid of them. But to me, that's not how it should work. That's how capitalism works. It has its ups and downs, trials and errors and tribulations, and
Yeah.
the more you interfere in it, the worse it makes it, I think.
I say to Chad, like, a lot, I'm like, it's like they're trying to change the way it's worked. Like they don't. It's like the typical. It bubbles, we pop it. It bubbles, we pop it. It bubbles. That kind of cycle. It's like they're getting bored of it. They're trying to probably usher in a new thing and maybe even see like, well, what if we just pump it up and keep pumping? Like, well, why can't we just do that forever? Like, what's the big thing?
It's like a social experiment.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Sometimes it feels like 2006, and then other times I'm like, but it's different. It's like kind of a new thing right now. But I'm getting 2006 vibes. So, you know what I mean? Here and there.
Yeah, me too. And I think back in call it obviously we had the dot-com bubble back in 99 2000. Then we had the the GFC action in 2008 2009, but they were generally due to sort of working of the private sector, pushing speculation, and obviously there's some pretty easy money flowing through from the Fed and just kept prolonging it. But this one almost feels like obviously we had a big economic hit from the onset of COVID last year. But it feels like they're just putting way too much stimulus than was needed, and it's sort of gone to specific areas that didn't really need it. So to me, this one's become a government and central bank-led bubble, whereas the others, at least early on, were more led by the private sector. So and so what happens when this one pops? When it was the government that created it?
I don't know, man.
So speaking of all this, and especially as somebody who really hasn't lived in America for that long, can you give us your viewpoint on the current political zeitgeist, as well as kind of your vision about the recent president-elect and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So I'm only on a green card at the moment, so I'm not even eligible to vote, Chad. So just to be clear about that. I think I will be getting my US passport soon. I'm eligible. Obviously, I've got a US wife and US kids, so it's just a matter of doing the paperwork, and I am going to do that too. So because I can keep my Aussie passport and have a US passport, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
So yeah, in 2014, when we decided to leave Singapore, the choices really were Australia or the US. My wife thought we'd go to Australia, but I really wanted to come to the US. And I've been here a lot over the years. Obviously, I've been married to her 20 years, and we were coming here probably twice a year for each of those years. So I was quite excited to move here in 2014. And we decided on Boulder, not really having spent time in Colorado, but not in Boulder. And we'd heard Boulder was awesome, and so we moved here. You know, there's a bit more behind that story, but I won't go into that. And you know, Boulder has been fantastic, and Colorado is just fantastic. You know, so we love it here. Obviously, you know, since we moved here, mid 2014, the US it's kind of gone through some interesting times politically, you know, economically as well. So, you know, I don't really say I'm aligned to the Democrats or the Republicans. I kind of like a bit of both of their parties, and there's things from both parties I don't like. I was saying to someone the other day, you know what, to me it feels like both of the parties are kind of broken and lost their way a little bit. We almost need a new party. I was going to call it the conscious capitalists, the CCs.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, because I definitely believe in capitalism, but I also believe in, you know, a conscious part of it where, you know, obviously you've got to have the system that can help out, you know, the less fortunate or those down on their luck, etc.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of finding the balance. And it just seems like both parties have lost their way a little bit, and now and a lot of this has kind of been, I guess, aided and abetted by the mainstream media.
Yeah.
You know, you're either on the side of the Democrats or you're on the side of the Republicans, and it's almost like they're almost trying to get you to hate each other, just by you know, the propaganda that's on some of those mainstream news channels.
Yep.
That's a little disappointing. You know, America is, especially, you know, growing up in Australia, we looked to America as, like, you know, almost the place to go. You know, it's the land of milk and honey, and you can get the American dream, and, you know, it's an opportunity to make some money. Taxes are low. But it's, you know, now, you know, especially, you know, the rest of the world generally didn't look that favorably on Trump. You know, I remain sort of pretty neutral on the whole thing. I thought Trump did some good things, and obviously sort of did some strange things, more personally than some of his policies. I thought a lot of his policies were quite good. I mean, there's some I didn't like, you know, especially some of the environmental policies and immigration policies, but economically, I thought some of his policies were pretty good. And, you know, the Democrats, I like a lot of the Democrat ideals, but I'm leaning to more odds on the capitalism side of things in terms of economic policy. So it'd be interesting to see how it goes with Biden. You know, obviously he's going to make some changes with the environmental policy. You know, so I'm just interested to watch. You know, it's almost, I like waking up every day here because it's a bit of people watching. You know, it's just, even though I've been here 6 years now, so it still feels like I'm in a bit of a pantomime. You know, and it's kind of fun.
It can be very interesting over here. Was there anybody besides Donald Trump and Joe Biden on the ballot that you thought could have been a better candidate in actuality?
Well, I really like that Pete Buttigieg for the
okay.
To be honest.
Sure.
Yeah, he's a Rhodes Scholar, and, you know, he's just an impressive guy when you see him speak, and what he's done as, you know, for his city over in Indiana. I think he's super impressive. You know, I thought the Republicans, you know, I just thought, obviously, you know, Trump was going to be the incumbent, so he was going to be the nominee. But I think, you know, this is a chance for the Republican Party to hit the reset button, get back to some of its kind of ideals, you know, what it was founded on. You know, I just like to see some good quality candidates on both sides, you know, and give people a reasonable choice.
Seriously.
And, you know, don't make it so polarizing. I mean, really, the difference between Democrats and Republicans doesn't have to be that much, you know, on the political spectrum. I mean, one's sort of on the right side, one's on the left, but it's not like they're at sort of polar opposites. They're not, you know, right at the end of the spectrum, you know. And, you know, for democracy to work, you kind of need pretty centrist parties just to keep everything on an even keel. Right. And centrist parties represent, you know, the majority of the population as well. So it just seems like everything got pushed to extremes here. But I'm kind of hoping, you know, usually you have some pretty dark clouds before, you know, the rebirth or whatever you want to call it. So I'm kind of hoping, you know, on both sides of the fence, you know, that everyone can hit the reset button and get a bit more bipartisanship going on. And the only thing that worries me is these news channels, they don't seem to be changing their tune. They're still too sort of one-sided, and it's just all propaganda.
It's
a little
crazy.
It's a little frustrating for me because, you know, I like to see news that's just basically objective.
Yeah, and just
The news
overt
channels
censor.
Yeah, they're just like, they're essentially editorials. You just turn it on, you're watching a 24-hour editorial, and, you know, that's not cool because, you know, you look at the ratings and you realize, shit, most of America is actually watching this rubbish. It's kind of sad.
If you, I like to make parallels, and there's a thing. So a lot of my family's in Russia. A lot of my family lived through the Soviet Union era, many generations of the Soviet Union era. The Soviet Union era in general isn't terribly long. Also, you know, the crux of it was about like the real crux of it was about 50 years.
Yeah.
And in those 50 years, you watch the country transform so dramatically from a feudalistic, like neo-feudalistic state to a like smorgasbord kind of like pseudo-capitalist socialism, you know.
Yeah.
And there are some cool parts about it, you know. For example, it ushered in such a profound respect in the country for the arts and for like values and commitment towards the family, and some ideological ideas were nice, but then it also demonstrated the wackiness that can happen when the media decides to connect with the government, and it becomes one kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So what the Russians are very aware of, and, you know, communistic satellite states and other communistic states are very aware of, is when this thing happens. So when it happens, is like the red flag, that like the alarms goes on, and we're like, oh, look, this country's making their own Pravda. Pravda was the Soviet Union's like magazine. It was the news channel. That's where everybody got the news.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is that there's in the version here in the West, there's a couple of news agencies that are in bed with the government to a certain level, and they are pushing an agenda that's to a certain level being controlled. Now, and when I make these parallels, I don't want to sound like the guy that's saying, well, the Pentagon just controls everything that comes out of the media. So, but I am kind of saying that. And so I get, so
and there's a lot of basis for that.
If you like click through CNN, then you go through BBC, then you go to Reuters, and you're just flipping channels. You can quite literally watch them say the same thing, like they're reading the same paragraph, and sentence after sentence, it just all lines up so neatly, and it makes you wonder, how's that possible? Are they reading off the same teleprompters? Are they getting the same memos?
Do you think we should play that? Could we play that video, or do you think
we can play that video if you want? There's so many of these funny videos that people put together.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen those? Yeah.
Let's have a look at it.
Yeah, this might surprise you. All right.
That should be good.
Let's see if this is it.
Doesn't matter who owns it. Of course, I can tell you about
across the nation. Just Sinclair's administration, and Lipton is about they allowed the main.
That's not the video.
They're like covering the video. Why is it so hard to just find this?
Now it's actually hard to find this video. Hold on, we really want to play it for you because this is pretty crazy.
I mean, you can probably even play this one.
Is that it, you think?
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's.
Yeah, that should be it.
I'm Ryan Wolf.
Yep. All right, here we go. All right. I'm going to share my screen.
While we're doing that, ladies and gentlemen, just have an open mind about what we're saying. It's not too serious. It's all just fun here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, here we go.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
We are concerned about plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
the sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 We get the point. We've sold out a long time ago. I mean, and so now, what can we do to fix this, man? What can we do to fix this, Ash?
That's a $64,000 question, that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we got to shut down all those news stations and start again.
Well, I feel like, one reason I think Armin and I align pretty much perfectly with everything that you've said thus far regarding, like your more centrist views or your conscious capitalism, or even like on a sense I would define a little bit myself as libertarian. But I feel like independent journalism is something that's being stifled a lot today. And if you come out and say something that does not agree with the mainstream narrative, they're going to shadow ban you. They're going to take it down. They're going to quote unquote fact check you. But one question that I have for you that's kind of in a totally different realm.
Yep.
But related, from your naturopathic connection, aka your wife, but also, your dedication to health, what do you see going on right now with COVID?
Oh, that's a can of worms, isn't it?
Oh, I can already tell.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what you're going to say yet. I maybe have an idea, but just be aware that you may need to mince your words, because sometimes even just kind of talking about it, we had a vegan, we're very into vegan stuff and plant-based stuff, but also just being healthy in general. And we had a vegan doctor, Dr. Will Tuttle, come on here, just talking about being healthy and, some things that are false that they've said to us, and some things that are kind of trickery. And we've already been censored for that. And we didn't say anything alarming, in all honesty. So just be aware. But
yeah, okay. Well, before we talk about COVID, let's just talk about the health of Americans, first of all. I think that's the starting point.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Well, obviously, the technology here and, the healthcare that's out there, and just some of the inventions that have been done by Americans in the medical space are amazing. And yet, to me, you look at the general population, and everyone just seems so unhealthy. It's like the cart seems to be before the horse. It's not healthcare, it's sick care. It's almost like I want everyone to be sick, because there's much more money in people being sick.
Yeah.
So that frustrates me a lot. And, people are eating so much processed foods. And that's not only a problem in the States, that's a Western world issue.
Yeah.
Processed foods in the long term are going to kill you. I just wish, people would be more into their natural health. Food is medicine, basically. Just look, I'm not saying I'm like super healthy, but, I think if you can just have more of a balanced diet, and then, then you don't really have any need for medications. People get addicted to these medications that obviously can have some pretty horrendous side effects.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems that money is dictating how things are being run here. I know in most industries, but in healthcare especially, between, big pharma, healthcare, and, some of the other lobby groups, they want you to stay sick. Really, and, the health insurance, so expensive here.
Yeah.
And it makes it tough for small business, just having to pay health insurance for the employees. It's a huge cost, and it's frustrating to me knowing that, if there was a bit more direction from the top in terms of the government about, trying to sort of implement sort of a better way where people could just eat better and, actually look after their own health rather than just getting sick and then wanting, a quick fix. It kind of goes back to that no one wants pain. I just want quick fixes. I've never seen any country where people take as many daily medications. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And being able to advertise that stuff on TV.
Oh, yeah.
In no other country do you see these big pharma ads on TV.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's
a little sad. So anyway, that's the health thing. But yeah, COVID, I try not to sort of get too involved in conspiracy theories, but this one just seems a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
Where it came from, why it's still here, the way the government's reacted to it.
Yeah.
It just seems there's some bigger things at play that us as the little guy, we're not finding out.
Yep.
So, now I'm starting to believe in some conspiracy theories, and I kind of never tried to in the past. But now, just the way things are going, and, and you got to say that the COVID thing has been pretty devastating in the States compared to a lot of other countries.
Yeah.
And I know it's tricky trying to manage, 340 million people in the response, and each state sort of sets its own rules. But I think part of it, why it's been so sort of devastating here, is people sort of had some complicated health issues going into it.
Yeah.
And obviously if someone gets COVID, that can exacerbate the issues. But, I think it's been a good wake-up call for people globally, is they've just got to actually pay a bit more attention to their personal health going forward. So, every cloud's got a silver lining. So I'm kind of hoping in a lot of respects we can move on from COVID and people look after themselves better, spend more time with their family, don't work as hard. There's hopefully it can be some good things come out of it. But, I'm still, I don't know if vaccines and wearing masks all the time is the answer. I'm definitely not lining up to take the first vaccine. That's just my own personal view. But, I also think if you look after your immune system's, probably the best machine in the world if it's allowed to run the way it's meant to. So
yeah, that's something
if your
that we've
immune
been
system's
saying.
working well, I don't think you have to worry too much, and getting a little bit sick is not the end of the world. But, I understand that's not the common view out there at this time, but, that's my view.
And even just the simple fact that the survival rate is so high. It's 99.8 if you're under the age of 60.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that's what we're saying too. Maybe there is this virus that is loose and getting people sick, but at the same time, the answer is certainly not to actually destroy your immune system by putting on hand sanitizer 24/7, wearing a mask 24/7, and now they're recommending 2 to 3 masks on top of each other.
That is ridiculous.
And then that's actually going to exacerbate your breathing problems there, because excessive exposure to increased carbon dioxide levels without proper oxygen filtration, you think that is you're gonna get sick regardless.
I know.
But that's that's a lot what we've been talking about with some other doctors on here. Just take your diet into consideration first, and you obviously know that very well. And the answer is not to get sick and then get the vaccine and then go to McDonald's after you got the vaccine.
Yeah, totally. It's it's you would hope the CDC and the WHO would sort of give a bit more indication of how you really should be trying to do things, in terms of just life in general. But the way to look after yourself to try and not get COVID, and if you do, you're right. Don't just think you got the vaccine and that's the fix.
Yeah, so much of the rhetoric just simply pays little to no attention to some of the obvious health issues Americans have.
Yeah.
And I think actions speak louder than words. So you can hear stories of a government that seems very concerned about something going on in the population, but then you watch what they do policy-wise. You watch their medical system, their pharmaceutical system, and the actions do not indicate that they are concerned. The actions indicate that they are trying to make another dollar.
And even their literal words that they have spoken in front of the entire audience of America have been lies and have been proven to be lies in one sense. And they say, oh, I was just saying that because of this one reason. It's like, no, not in this sort of situation, in this sort of global deadly pandemic. You don't lie for like that, what I'm referring to. But
and and if they didn't know the exact truth at that point, because obviously when COVID first came out, the medical expert scientists were still learning about it. And if you don't know the correct answer, don't make something up or give an answer just because someone is putting dollars in your pocket. Just say, listen, we're studying this really hard. Don't panic. Everything's going to be okay, but it's still a work in progress.
What we found funny was when everybody got so up in arms about hydroxychloroquine, and they were talking about how, it's been used for a while, and then it became completely politicized in the media. Well, we had a doctor come on to the podcast here in Houston who's been on BBC, CNN, the Houston Chronicle, NBC, a bunch of all the major news sources for his treatment, his daily treatment of COVID. And we had him on because he said he was using hydroxychloroquine to treat his patients early on. And so we just wanted that first person perspective as to what was going on. Somebody who's actually a trained doctor, not a NBC host telling me what to do. And he said,
is he saying it was quite effective early on?
He actually, yes, exactly. He said, if you used it early on when the person was sick, towards the beginning of them getting sick, it was effective. And it has been effective for the past 50 years. It's not a new thing, and they're making it seem like it's a new thing. But subsequently, he was trying a different combination of things, like different steroids, different vitamins, and he created this thing called Math Plus, which is just his acronym for it. And then he said, that is working better, so I'm just going to move to that. And see, that's exactly what we want. We say, we don't want to demonize it solely because the media tells us to. It says, it worked a little bit. We found something better. We moved on. Great.
Yeah.
Get your facts right. So,
and, I'd heard that hydro was pretty effective too if you get it in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
And, you can buy it in Mexico over the counter. And I know people have used it down there, and boom, in a couple of days they're feeling much, much better.
Or even, speaking of naturopathic stuff, what people don't realize is very important sometimes is even just fasting.
Yeah.
Just to promote the autophagy within your cells and really clear out a virus. But no, we're actually just taught that you need to just eat and eat. And I do love eating.
Worst thing to do.
I love eating, but I actually think that it's not really the best thing for you.
Not really. We all can eat a bit much, to be honest.
Yeah. I think I don't want to take up too much more of your time just because I said an hour.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
no worries.
Yeah, and just so the powers that be don't get too upset and then just take this video
Sure,
down
yeah,
right. Let's what is your major goal with Epic water filters? You know, what do you, I know that as a business you guys have probably a 5, 10 year, 20-year strategy, and if there's a sneak peek you can give us.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like where it's going right now. Obviously, I'd like to improve sales globally. Like, we're doing really well in the States. And, you know, we're actually doing quite well in the UK. We have distributors in Singapore and Australia. So we're working on sort of more global expansion. You know, I'd love to, you know, get products in, you know, people's hands all around the world. So definitely looking at sort of global expansion.
Check.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I think that's him.
Oops.
Check 1. Still on the Houston Ensemble podcast here. Just hanging out.
Yeah, I'm
This is great.
I'm loving
I knew this would be good.
the ease with which the conversation is going. We're trying to be light. We're trying to be a little serious and light. You know, it's fun. And
it's cool stuff.
And yeah, it's so important to have conversations with people like Ash that are actually like in this, trying to do something to contribute towards our health. You know, I don't know. I'm trying to
even something that could change the world globally. For example, you know, in countries that have like truly, truly terrible water. This could be something that could change their whole livelihood. But, you know, as we've seen in the past, when somebody invents something that is life-changing, that could turn a whole country around, it seems to get stifled.
Oh, yeah. The guy that more than, I would say, nearly 20 years ago developed a hydrogen-based engine to power cars.
Right, yeah.
That guy disappeared from the face of the planet.
Yeah, no. I know.
And now, just a couple of months ago, all over the news, hydrogen-based engines.
Oh, he's back. Check 1. Ash, if you're there, let us. Oh, we can.
Hey, boys.
There you are.
Hey.
Hey.
I don't know what happened. I think my laptop must have run out of battery.
Oh, no worries.
Okay.
We were just filling the air.
Hopefully we're back. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Totally good.
So you were saying
Yeah.
increase global sales.
Yeah. I want to try and, you know, get our products out there more on a global basis. And then, you know, on a personal level, you know, I just turned 50 last month. So, you know, I want to keep working at Epic, but, you know, at some point I want to step back a little bit, you know, from the day-to-day running and, you know, leave it in younger hands. We've got a really good young team here. So that would be something on the horizon, you know, in the next few years for sure. And, you know, I'd like to get more involved in just trying to make an impact with the plastic pollution thing.
Yeah.
You know, so Epic's a big supporter of the Inland Ocean Coalition, which was founded in Boulder, and now it's a national nonprofit trying to bring awareness to, you know, pollution of the waterways and the ocean, that kind of thing. So I'm on the advisory board for that. You know, I enjoy doing a lot of work there, and I'm trying to sort of get involved in some similar sort of things over in Southeast Asia. So, you know, that's for me personally, you know, just try and get involved and bring more awareness to the single-use plastic issue. But, you know, with Epic, the more it can grow, sort of, you know, the more bottles that means are not being purchased for water. So, you know, the key, I guess, is just make sure Epic keeps going well and is profitable and can keep, you know, the team in jobs, and, you know, we can keep making a difference. It's, but I definitely would sort of like to pass it, you know, into younger hands, you know, at some point, especially, you know, technology changing so much and living in an e-commerce world. I'm definitely no expert in that. And you know, like to sort of pass it down to the younger people on the team and let them take more of a controlling role, and I just sit back in more of I guess sort of almost like a board position or that kind of thing in a few years' time. So that's really it. We're not out to dominate the world. We're out. I'm pretty big on the work-life balance thing for obviously me, but also the employees. So we work hard, but we work smart, and we have a good time at the same time. So just more of the same, really.
I remember you saying how much of a probably physical, mental impact trading can have.
Yeah. Totally.
Because you're wired the whole time. You're watching 8 different screens. You're like, what's the news saying? Should I short it? Should I long it? I don't know. And then you're like playing this like millisecond game, and that stresses you out. You're up at 5 a.m. in the morning because you want to hit the markets at a certain time, blah, blah, blah. And it's just, it can get crazy. So, but the wonderful thing about a company like yours is like you say, you can scale it up, maybe hire one extra guy, scale it up some more, hire maybe one more guy, and that's it. You don't need to have a gigantic, headquarters and be staring at a screen all day. But
exactly.
I honestly would love an epic water filter on everybody's table because
truly.
Once again, like I don't really know a lot of other filtration systems that are as thorough as yours. So
I appreciate that, Armin. Armin, where's your bottle? I've got to send you a bottle.
I'm gonna have to get a bottle.
We could use
Chad, you need a new one. That bottle's a few years old too.
It is actually old.
Yeah.
So if you want to, we would gladly take them.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you guys some of our newer bottles too.
Oh
thank you so
much. See, I knew that. I just had a feeling that this podcast, we were just gonna align on it. So we're really thankful that you obliged us today and shared your wisdom and your knowledge. And hey, if you ever need a song or you ever need some background music for Epic Water Filters, we're actually we're musicians and we went to school for music.
Yeah.
But we got a studio here and stuff, so let us know.
Oh, that's cool.
But more importantly, thank you so much for today. It was truly a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
And I'll send you a little email after this just to touch base with you, and hopefully we'll be in touch in the future. Maybe we can do it again sometime.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Well, like I said, this is my first. What is this? This is a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my first one. So hopefully I didn't scare some of your listeners away.
No. Actually, I think our listeners are going to love this episode.
Yeah.
As have we. And guys, understand this. Sometimes we talk about this stuff and it gets a little bit like sad. We're like, oh man, the world is this and that. But guess what? We got people like Ash that are on the side of good.
Yes.
And I think that just like the reason why good always wins in every movie is because good always wins.
Exactly. It might take some time sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good prevails eventually. So, Chad, send me your address where you want the bottles delivered to. I know we probably have your address here, but just send me it so I've got it in front of me.
Absolutely, I will. All right, Ash. Thank you so much.
Righto, boys. That was good to chat. I'll have to come and visit in Houston soon.
Oh, please.
Yes,
if you're ever down here, please let us know.
I've never been to Texas.
It's a good place to be right now.
It's actually you would like it down here right now, actually.
I know. I really want to go. I've got some friends in various parts. I was actually booked to come to Houston. I don't know. It's probably like 4 years ago. Remember when you guys had that massive flooding?
Yeah.
I guess it was a hurricane and then ensuing flooding.
Yeah.
Harvey.
I was meant to be flying into Houston like the day of the big flooding, so I obviously had to cancel.
Wow. That's actually one reason. That was actually kind of my impetus for getting the bottle, because after that hurricane, the water quality was just insanely low. And so that's when I started looking. So
yeah,
full circle.
Oh, there you go. That is the full circle. All right, fellas. That was fun. So let's stay in touch.
Thank you, sir.
Speak to you guys soon.
All right, Ash.
Have a good one.
Right.
Have a great
See
day.
you guys. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye-bye.